Have a pleasant day, everyone. I hope everyone is safe despite the hard times that Typhoon Odette hit us with. I'm hoping that all of us are slowly recovering. So, for now, let's just continue aiming for our dreams. That is why I am here to discuss a certain topic about spiritual self. But before that, let me ask you a question. What comes in your mind when you hear the word spiritual? William James' take on spiritual self, which is included to the other empirical selves, is defined as the innermost workings of the person's mind, the behavior, beliefs, and even morals that involves every aspect of the human as a person. Considering the will of the person, how they distinguish between right and wrong, and also one's intellect are some of the manifestation of the spiritual self of a person. By the spiritual self, so far as it belongs to the empirical me. I mean man's inner or subjective being, his psychic faculties or disposition taken concretely, not the bare principle of personal unity or pure ego. This psychic disposition are the most enduring and intimate part of the self, those which we most verily seem to be. We take purer self-satisfaction when we think of our ability to argue and discriminate, of our moral sensibility and conscience, of our indomitable will, than when we survey any of our other positions. Spiritual self is you in your most beautiful and powerful form. It is the authentic self, the unconditioned part, the you without patterns. This is personal for each of us, so no need to get caught up on the language. On your process, you got to know this part of yourself. Here are some manifestations of the spiritual self. First, person's will refers to one's wishes. These are the things that we want to see and achieve in our lives. So, mao kini ang nagtumong sa pangandoy sa usa, kini ang mga butang nga gusto natong makita ug makabot sa atoang kinabuhi. Next, intelligence and abilities. These are the perceived strengths of a person, the things that they have confidence in doing and believe to have a certain level of mastery, which mean ability is suitableness, while intelligence is capacity of mind, especially to understand principles, truths, facts, or meanings, acquire knowledge, and apply it to practice, the ability to learn and comprehend. So, mao kini ang mga gitan-aw nga kalig-on sa usa ka tawo, ang mga butang nga naa sila pagsalig sa pagbuhat. The third one is morals. It is the definition of what is right and wrong, distinguishing the things that are acceptable for a person, the society, and at the same time the determination of the possible effects of their action to themselves, their environment, and other people. It is also a lesson, especially one concerning what is right or prudent, that can be derived from a story, a piece of information, or an experience. So, mao kini ang mga atong nahibaw-an unsay sakto ug sayop nga mga buluhaton o pamatasan nato sa isigataw. The last one is values. It is the person's ability to distinguish what is important and what is not. With one's value system, a person may be able to prioritize what they think are the tasks and things that they need. What are things that should be done or resolved immediately, and what are those that they can delay without grave repercussions. It is a person's principles or standards of behavior, one's judgment of what is important in life. So, mao kini ang abilidad sa tawo sa pag-ila sa unsa ang importante o unsa ang dili.
The practice of religion, belief in supernatural being and power. So, what comes in your mind when you hear the word religion? Unsa may imong mahunahunaan og makadungog ka og word nga religion? Og unsa man daay jud pud ning religion? So, religion comes from a Latin word which means to tie or to bind together. But in the modern dictionaries, religion is defined as an organized system or beliefs and rituals centering on a supernatural beings. It is also the set of attitudes, beliefs, and practices that are related to supernatural beings and power. And according to Haviland 2007, religion is an organized system of ideas about spiritual reality or the supernatural along with the associated beliefs and ceremonial practices. So, ang religion is organized system of beliefs and rituals and mga attitudes, mga pamatasan, mga pagtuo, mga prayer, mga ritual nga panghimuon nga related sa mga supernatural beings and power. Moto siya ang religion. And religion has 3 different functions. Those are the cognitive function, emotional function, and social function. The cognitive function, it allows us humans to explain the unexplainable phenomena that are happening in our surroundings. So, kanang mga dili itong mga lisod na itong i-explain ng mga panghitabo sa ato ang palibot. Well, the emotional functions, it helps individuals to cope up with their anxieties that often accompany illness, mga accidents, deaths, and other misfortunes. While the social function is social control, conflict resolution, and building up solidarity. It provides social cohesion to help maintain social solidarity through shared rituals and beliefs. It also enforces religious-based morals and norms to help maintain conformity and control in the society. So, moto siya ang tulo ka function sa religion. So, ang spirituality, according to Haviland 2007, spirituality concerned with the sacred and distinguished form from material matters. It contrasts to religion. Spirituality is often individual rather than a collective and does not require a distinctive format or traditional organization. So, take note that religion and spirituality differs. So, naikalahian ang religion ug ang spirituality. Kaya ang religion, saman to ka organisadong sistema sa mga pagtuo, mga pamatasan, mga kultural, mga kaugalian, mga ritual, while spirituality, individuals search for ultimate and sacred meaning of purpose in life. So, more on spiritual. So, next, Edward Burney Taylor. Kinsa man ni si Edward Burney Taylor? He is the one who defined the belief in spiritual beings in 1871. He also argued that this belief does exist in all known societies. So, nituudyo ni siya nga, kani nga pagtuo is ni-exist sa all known societies. Kani si Edward Burney Taylor. So, unsa man sad ning myth, rituals, ug supernatural? Well, myth is a sacred narrative that explains the fundamentals of human existence, where we and everything in our world came from. Why are we existing and where are we going? So, kaning myth is mga mga narrative, mga stories ni siya nga nag-explain sa mga fundamentals ug nganong nag-exista nga mga human, nganong naata diri sa kalibutan, dis-a man tagikan ug asa man tapadong. While rituals are culturally prescribed symbolic act or procedure designed to guide members in a community orderly through personal and collective transitions. So kaning ritual is money kanang na ay mga symbolic act like just like mga pagabuhato nato bitaw aron mag-guide ang ang each member sa atong community part ang mga kuan sa religion kanang na ay kinsay nga kauban nyo sa religion mag-guide. So rituals have two types. These are calendaric and crisis. Ang calendaric perform on daily regular basis, just like prayer, while crisis, which is performed when there is a shortage in the area. So just like birthday celebrations, ano siya. So supernatural. What is supernatural? It is around us all the time, especially in non-industrialized societies. A lot of culture, health, wealth, and daily things are related to supernatural, just like magic, which is prevalent in all societies, whether naani siya sa organized religion or more on general systems of animism and shamanism. So that would be all in the practice of religion, belief in supernatural being and power. And the next topic will be discussed by my group mate, and it is the concept of dungan, spirit or soul.
Good morning, everyone. In my part, I will be discussing the concept of dungan, spirit or soul, and rituals and ceremonies. Animism is one of the oldest beliefs which is taken from the Latin word anima means breath or soul. A soul means a spiritual part of a person that is believed to give life to the body and in many religions is believed to live forever. The spiritual principle embodied in human being, all rational and spiritual beings or the universe. It is believed that everything in nature have their own spirit or divinity, like plants, animals, and objects have spirits, including us, people. They believe in the existence of spirits separable from bodies. The soul or spirit of a person has two dimensions, the human body and spiritual. Human body confers individuality and humanity, often considered to be synonymous with the mind or the self. Second is the spiritual, believed to survive death and be subject to happiness or misery in a life to come, arguing the immortality of the soul. Soul or spirit at different regions of the Philippines have different terms. Terms such as kaluluwa, gimukod, makato, dungan, ikarwa, and kadkadwa. Kaluluwa by the Tagalogs or ikararwa or kararwa taken from the root word dua which means two or duha. Soul referred to gimukod by the Bagobos, makato by the Bukidnons, kadkadwa by the Ilocanos when the soul is in the physical body and constant companion. Kadkadwa when it is inside your body, it exists like you have someone you have work with, and karurua when it is departs when it lives in your body. Soul referred to ikarwa by the Ibadags. Dungan by the Ilonggos when the person is alive. When a person is alive, it is continuing to exist, and it is called kalag, detached, or free. When it is dead, he is no longer live. How about you? Do you believe in spirit or soul? The dungan is not seen by the human eye. It takes in a different form. For instance, it can be formed an insect or a small animals such as lizard, mga butterflies, di ba? Kintahay, nakay makita niya dako nga butterfly, mo nga nakadayan. Anang, hala si Lula mana si kinsa ba nga wa na, di ba? Nga mga istorya sa mga katiguangan nga ang soul is formed as an insect. Di sa mas kita sa human eye because mag-take siya of different form. The Visayans believe that the dungan leaves the body while person is asleep. mulakaw daw kuno siya ang dungan, which ang soul, kung matug ang tao. Traveling dungan outside the body must be free from accidents such as getting trapped by a jar. Tinood? Or we're not sure. Only when the soul has safely reunited with the body, the person will be awake. Kung mubalik na gali ang soul sa imong lawas, sumao na makamata na ang tao. Dungan is also connoted as willpower. Willpower is the ability to control yourself. If a person has a strong willpower, it is said to have a strong dungan. Magos 1986. Next, we proceed to rituals and ceremonies. Rituals and ceremonies is a formal ceremony or series of acts that is always performed in the same way each time. Rituals in the Philippines are quite common. Visayan fishing villages practice the offering ritual called harang. A local shaman invokes sea spirits. There are several stages of the ritual: the purification, invocation, entreaty, and feast, which cover community life such as harvest, operation of fishing, boats, and cases of illnesses. That is said by Kawada 1996. There are general features of harang ritual. The purification of the place, in the Bisaya it is called tuob. Invocation spirits, pagtawag. Explanation of motivation, request and entreaty, pangamuyo. Offering communion, bayad. And feast, kanon. That was all. Thank you. Next is presented by my co-members. It is the finding and creating the meaning of life.
So now, I am going to discuss finding and creating meaning in life. But before anything else, let me ask you a question. What is your purpose in life? Or do you know your purpose in life? If yes, then congratulations. If no, then start looking and creating meaning of your life. Now, have you ever heard of Viktor Emil Frankl and his book Man's Search for Meaning? Well, Viktor Emil Frankl is a professor of neurology and psychiatry who created or developed a new form of therapy called logotherapy. By the way, what is logotherapy? Logotherapy comes from logos, Greek for meaning. It is a method of healing the soul by cultivating the capacity to find a meaningful life. Viktor Emil Frankl indicates how his involvement increased for the significance of life in a Nazi death camp changed his viewpoint of the world. And let me tell you a short story of Viktor Frankl. He spent 3 years as a prisoner in the Auschwitz and Dachau concentration camps. His wife, father, mother, and brother died in these camps. He was faced with extreme hunger, debilitating illnesses, and brutal living conditions, yet, unlike the prisoners around him, he somehow managed to find hope and meaning during one of the most catastrophic events in human history. To think of, if you were him, with all this in mind, how could you find life worth preserving or worth living? Nga, diba, bisag mamatyan na tag, bisag isa ka miyembro sa pamilya, masakitan na ta, mura na tag, mawala sa tong kagalingon nga makaingon ta nga napabakay pulos akong kinabuhi. Diba? Nga, but, nauna si Viktor Emil Frankl na kaya niya, nalampasan niya, na-overcome niya, o nakita niya ang iyang purpose sa kinabuhi diha sa iyang mga struggles and sufferings. So with that, Frankl states that we can't abstain from affliction, yet we can pick how to manage it and discover significance in it. So, example, sa atong mga problema nga atong masinati, dapat makakita tag hope, makakita tag way, nga kanang suffering, nga kanang problema nga atong na-feel, or atong giatubang, maoy rason na mapadayon ta sa kinabuhi. Let's wala nagmatter ang problema, it's our attitude that matters. It's our decision that matters. Frankel's hypothesis questioned the thoughts of Freud, who trusted the significance of life was to seek after joy. It means nga, si Frankel, ni-reject siya sa idea ni Freud nga ang meaning sa kinabuhi mo ang pagpangita o mangita sa mga butang nga makapalipay ka nato. But instead, Frankl believes that culture emerges from within the individual and becomes manifest as the result of a dialogue between the broader social world and the autonomous choice. Frankl trusted that it's the motivation that enables the individual to survive from troublesome circumstances. For him, life is not primarily a quest for pleasure, as Freud believed, but a quest for meaning. Also, he believed that man cannot avoid suffering, but instead, man can find meaning from it. But the question is how? How can a man or how can a human find the meaning of his or her life? First is through purposeful work. It is by doing a deed or doing something significant. It can be by way of achievements or accomplishments. Second, through experiences with something or someone, like loving or giving care for another person. The salvation of man is through love and in love, according to Frankl. And the third way to discover the meaning of our life is the attitudes we take toward unavoidable suffering, just like what I said earlier. We can discover the meaning of life through our suffering and struggles, even in hopeless situations, through changing our attitudes towards it. Suffering itself is meaningless, but our response to it gives its meaning. Frankl's theory holds three primary human capabilities called as neurological possibilities. First is self-detachment. What is self-detachment? Self-detachment is the prerogative of man to be healthy and to change in response to his guilt and regret. Second is self-transcendence, a personality that involves the expansion of personal boundaries, including potentially experiencing spiritual ideas. And third, ability to be spiritually in touch with something or someone independent of spatio-temporal dimensions. To complement these capabilities, Frankl identified three postulates. And these are the anthropological postulate, psychological, and philosophical postulate. Start with the anthropological postulate. Man does not simply exist, but always decides what the existence will be, what he will become in the next moment. Para na ako, pasabot ani kay, like for example, kung gusto ta mo graduate, makagraduate pa ta kung maglingkod-lingkod na ta. It's us who decide unsay mga ways para mo graduate ta. Like, dapat manikamot kita para mo graduate ta. It's us who decides what our life will be in the future. Like, if wala tayo plano sa kinabuhi, then wala tayo pangandoy sa itong kinabuhi, then unsa kaya itong future? Diba? Next is the psychological postulate. Man's key motivation is the search for meaning. So sa akong giingon ganina, makakita tag sa meaning sa atong kinabuhi if we are motivated enough to find or create it. And lastly, philosophical postulate. Life has unconditional meaning, regardless of the circumstances or situations. Well, if you believe that life has unconditional meaning, you will expect that meaning and trust that that meaning is there even when it is beyond your comprehension. With all that I have been said, how does spiritual self or how does spirituality influence the meaning of our life? For me, our spiritual self influences us to the meaning of our life is that it gives us peace, hope, and balance. It can help you make sense of your experiences in life. Like if you're unwell, makakita jud kag rason kaybaw na ka through your experiences kung unsa ang mga way para maayo kag dali or for faster recovery. In quote, everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. So yes, dili magmatter ang mga circumstances, mga sufferings nato, or ang conditions sa kinabuhi, but the only thing that matter is our attitude or ang atong response sa ani nga kanang condition. So, thank you very much for listening, and I hope you learn from it.